think when people hear the word bipolar, first of all, some people don't understand it, and so you have to kind of explain it.
Feeling very, very good, excited and confident, and then feeling completely black and down and no sense in life and no sense of purpose whatsoever.
You can go into a severe, deep depression where you're completely suicidal, don't want to do anything, you just won't do anything, and then you can be treated for the depression and that brings your mood up. But then there's a bit of a risk because you could be manic and it makes you more manic.
And I think there's many misconceptions about what bipolar is. I have had people just like blank me and just walk off. They're just scared that I'm going to be some person that they don't understand.
My head was always elsewhere. I was more interested in what I was going to do after school and on the weekend than actually in the lessons. I did actually have one maths teacher say to me, "John, you can do this standing on your head and there are people here that are struggling to keep up. So get down and get working." But I didn't, and I didn't leave school with particularly good qualifications. But I also had a feeling in the back of my mind that that wasn't all that relevant because one day I was going to make it anyway.
When I was younger, at 3 or 4, must have been when I was about 4 when I was walking to school, I used to think that the grass that I walked past was speaking to me and that we were having a conversation, but I didn't know whether that was just imagination. I come from a family of teachers. My father was very, very high up in education, extremely high up. And he didn't want any of us to go into teaching.
So at 13, I was getting piano and clarinet teaching from 2 of the best teachers in the county, choirs, orchestras. I worked my way up through the bands and ended up in concert band playing first clarinet when I was about 18. And that inspired me to go on to Christchurch University in Canterbury and train to be a teacher and do music.
I originally come from Kenya. I was born in Kenya and I came to UK to do my university degree in 1998. I am an optometrist, which we test eyes, diagnose illnesses. I am obviously trying to move higher up in my career because I've done the bachelor's degree, so I'm doing my master's in optometry.
I started to make a career in sales and I became pretty effective. But I didn't know at the time that I was bipolar. In fact, I was only diagnosed correctly 3 years ago. So I spent a lot of my early life, and indeed a lot of my middle life, in a situation where I had an undiagnosed illness. In 1992, our best year, I think our combined turnover with the different companies that I was running then was over £2 million. I had 15 employees and I had 10 or 12 vehicles on the road, so it was really going well. The experience of wanting to run, it's quite common with me, and it manifested itself dramatically when I disappeared when the business collapsed in 2002, and I disappeared for almost a year to Canada and America.
When it really struck me was when I was 15. That's when I knew something wasn't quite right. A lot of people thought it might be, the teenage blues. When I was just about to go to university, I think I panicked and thought, well, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to leave the security of where I was.
I became very down during my first year of sixth form. I knew why, but I didn't know how to solve it. Also at secondary school, I masked my anxiety and my slight feeling of feeling down by playing the fool in the class.
The move from Kenya and then coming to live here independently, I think that was pretty hard, because otherwise you always have your family, you always had mum and dad. But it was pretty different. I'd never been in another country on my own, so I used to cry over the phone every weekend, wanting to go home straight away and be with mum and dad. And I think that first year I remember that I was just absolutely homesick throughout.
I couldn't get out of bed. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. And yet I had successfully got my degree. I'd done well. And again, I went to the doctor and said, I don't know what to do. I can't sleep. I don't feel like eating. And then he said, well, I think you're depressed.
I think depression started to hit me probably in my mid to late 20s. While I said the career was going well, there were times when what others would consider relatively minor events took me down to a depth which I found horrifying and terrifying. At the times when I was depressed, I was suicidal and I considered suicide.
I felt empty, useless, tired. I just felt tremendously tired. It was as if I hadn't slept for about 6 months, and I felt like, oh my God, my heart's going to stop, my body's going to give up, something really terrible is going to happen. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm going to be completely useless. I started crying and I just couldn't stop.
Wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, and I put on a lot of weight and just completely fell apart. Didn't see the point of wanting to live.
It's a dark place, and it's a continual video which I can't stop. I can't shut the machine down,
Everything is doom and gloom. It's almost like, somebody's switched off the light and you have to sit in the dark for a very, very long time. Being in a mania is totally different. It's like that light is on all the time and it's too bright and you can't switch it off. It's just like if you shut your eyes, the light's still there.
Everything's going at 200 miles an hour. Your brain's going at 200 miles an hour. It's like a washing machine that doesn't stop. It's just spinning.
Being in a car and you're not driving and you're going down a road and somebody's like going really, 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 really fast and you feel too scared to tell them to slow down.
Your thoughts get more and more and more rapid.
And everything's flashing through their mind. There are images of, we're not talking hallucinations here, we're talking real images in your mind of cars, of people, of bank managers and, landlords, whatever. And it's all coming at you at 1,000 miles an hour and you're trying to filter it and trying to slow it down and trying to stop it.
You have no control. You can't tell them to slow down. They're going too fast and they're playing music really, really loudly and there's lights going around really, really brightly.
But the more you try and stop it, it just gets faster and it just escalates and it gets out of proportion, and things that are simple suddenly become incredibly complicated because you're looking at it from a completely obscure and confused state of mind.
Your thoughts are haywire. Absolutely haywire, but you think, it's okay, it's fine.
And there's smells and there's tastes and it's just all too much and you just want to shut it all out, but you can't.
But at the time, you don't feel depressed. You feel okay, but this craziness is going on. You don't feel depressed or down, but you feel completely off the wall.
Colour is just so vivid and the voices you hear from other people are so loud that everything, it's almost exciting.
It's like having permanent sunshine, and when I also feel so powerful that nothing can stand in my way, nothing will stop me, whatever I do is going to be a success.
And you feel so happy, but it's like dangerously happy. You know, you just think you can almost fly. It's like you've taken this amazing drug. So it is a nice place to be, but it's not necessarily for other people.
I was throwing things in the hospital, breaking vases, abusing, name it. Because I was so out of control, they had to pin me down. It manifests in a way, it's a very weird way, that you think that you've got this powers, that you almost like rule everything and you can do anything and everything you say. You know, you've got these weird dreams that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, I'll do this degree, I'm going to sue this person, and I'm going, you know, you have that sort of very strong views, and you're actually pretty scary when you talk to people. People get scared of you.
I went into a manic phase that was completely out of control. I spent an awful lot of money that I don't have. I borrowed money from banks, I spent money on credit cards, with the usual overconfident aspect of this condition that I'm a smart guy, I'm going to make this money back in no time. You know, I didn't. The plans I had were unrealistic. The chances of me recouping the amount I spent were zero.
On one occasion, in the middle of the night, wearing not very much, I ran down the alleyway and I stood outside the vicarage and I shouted up to the vicar and said, "You've got it all wrong. Jesus was a woman." And I kept saying it louder and louder and louder.
I went up to a bush where there was a butterfly. I'm sure it was a real butterfly, but suddenly there were 2 butterflies on the bush, and then there were 4, and then there were 8, and they were multiplying geometrically, and suddenly the whole bush was just full of butterflies, which was amazing. I then looked out to sea, and I could see the French coast. You cannot see the French coast from Brixham. You can see it from Dover and Folkestone. You cannot see the French coast from Brixham, but I could see the French coast clearly. I could see deck chairs on the beach, I could see parasols, I could see people walking up and down the beach. That's not normal.
If I was performing on stage and I was manic with bipolar, I would overplay everything completely. My voice would be too loud. I would talk about myself all the time. It would be about me. Everything would be about me.
We went to a vineyard and it had a very, very long driveway. And Nick was driving and one of my sons was in the front, I was in the back, the other son was next to me. And I said, "Oh, I'm the Queen and you're my princes." And I can remember one of the sons saying to me, "You only think you're the Queen, Mother, because you are sat in the back." I just thought I was the Queen and that we were the royal family, and the royal family that exists were just impersonators, so that we were always protected. And where I live, I just felt these were like guards protecting our house. And I remember going to the psychiatrist about this and said, "Oh, I just thought I was the Queen for the day, you know, what's going on?" And he just laughed and said, "Did you wave? Did you do the royal wave?" And I thought, well, if he can laugh about it, then I'm going to have to laugh about it, because it really was very ridiculous.
I said to my counsellor that I've got to go into hospital, I've got to get it all out, you know, otherwise it's going to kill me, basically. But it was pretty traumatic, it was horrible, and I felt so scared, and because I didn't really know what was going to happen. It's out of the norm of most people's range of things that they have to experience, so it's not nice.
I remember when I was sectioned, obviously cocktail of medications. I was on chlorpromazine, I was on God knows how many medications, side effects, name it. It was just a disaster. I wasn't sleeping, I was in such a bad state.
Everybody looked normal, if there is a normal. But as I got to know people, you realise they had severe problems. The thing that really struck me and scared me was that there were bars on the window in my room, and then I realised there were bars on everybody's window, and that's when you realise actually you are in a hospital, and it's a secure hospital. When I had to go into hospital, you have to stop there. I'll be all right in a minute.
My daughter actually rang me one day when I was in a manic phase. I didn't know it was a manic phase, and she asked me what I was doing. I said, well, I'm renting a plane at 3 o'clock, and then I'm going down to Newquay to do some surfing. There was a big storm coming in from the Atlantic. I think it was January or February. It was going to be 12-foot waves in Cornwall, so I was up for it, you know. And my daughter was absolutely horrified. She said, no, I don't think you should do that, Dad. And within minutes, she arrived at my front door with her mother. They took me down to the casualty department. I eventually saw a psychiatrist, a duty psychiatrist, and the diagnosis changed completely. And he asked me a question. I think it was about 16 words, and there were 3 parts to the question. Are you ever overconfident? Are you ever over-talkative? Do you go on spending sprees? 1 sentence, 3 questions, 16 words. To which I replied, yes, yes, and yes. And he said, you're bipolar. And I went, what? He said, you're bipolar. My diagnosis for me was about 20 years too late, as far as I'm concerned, you know. If we had proper diagnosis, I'm sure it could have been picked up a lot earlier and saved myself and lots of other sufferers an awful lot of pain. Yeah, sure, when I found out I was bipolar, rather belatedly, it was a liberation, because it put everything into place, and it answered a lot of questions and explained a lot of mysteries. You know, you've still got to deal with it, but if you know what you're dealing with, you know, you're in with a chance, you know. So yeah, I find it liberating that I have finally been diagnosed correctly.
Good, huh?
I have noticed that the Indian society tries to ignore mental illness, depression. They could actually have a family member who is completely depressed, but they have got a reason for it in terms of, oh, maybe she's worried about this and she's worried about that, and they don't think that this is actually something that needs to be looked into.
I did have members of the family who were quite close to me that didn't like the idea that I'd had this label.
I don't talk about her to anybody else, including my own family, because I don't think everybody else would accept it as normal. I don't think the society in general, whether it's the Indian or anybody outside, would accept mental health illness the same as diabetes.
Why do you think that is?
It's because it's mental, basically. See, the word mental makes it crazy.
She's married, she's successful, she's got a lovely job, blah, blah, blah. I can't see what there is to be depressed about. I just get really annoyed with them. I think, well, you try it. You try being depressed, and then all of a sudden you want me to be happy. You know, it's impossible. It's the most ridiculous thing to say. And I might say, well, how am I going to snap out of it? Can you tell me how I snap out of it?
Just tell me how I snap out of it, you know. I've been trying for 60 years, you know. Yeah, well, pull yourself together. I'm not a pair of curtains, I'm a human being, you know. I'm just like you, I'm flesh and blood. But if I had cancer, you know, or if I had pancreatitis, you'd feel sorry for me. But because I have a mental health condition, well, you know, he's a bit crazy, that guy, but stay well away from him. You know, I'm not crazy, I don't think, although I'd probably best leave that to the doctors. I'm different, you know, and different's good, you know, different's good. If we're all the same, it'd be a pretty boring world, wouldn't it?
One of my friends who I happened to meet at the bus stop said to me, "Why don't you come to church with us?" And I thought, yeah, there's one God, why not? So I went in there, and obviously I used to go every Sunday as well, and it was all these lovely stories of Jesus and everything, and I thought, fine, I'll be coming here. I used to go every Tuesday evenings as well, and there was one time I remember I was so depressed. It was during the day. Just one thing I said was, "Oh God, Jesus, just help me somehow." And then I got up and I went around the church and I was lighting every candle around there. And then I saw this beautiful painting. I think it was the most beautiful painting I'd ever seen. And she had her contact number on the side. So I thought I'll text her, and I never expected a reply, but she sent me a reply. I started art with her. Slowly there was so much colour in my life. Started changing myself inside. And as soon as I was changing myself inside, I was changing outside. And art, I think, has been such a therapeutic thing for me. Every time I get upset, I just need to pick my brush or my pencil, and I will remove all my emotions as well.
I was once told that religion is for people who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for people who've already been there, and I can relate to that. But surfing, I feel completely wired into the planet, wired into Mother Nature, because it's completely natural. I'm being propelled along on this piece of fiberglass by Mother Nature, and it's a wonderful feeling. It's an amazing feeling.
Walking near water is very therapeutic.
There's a John Miles record, some of you older guys remember it, called Music. And the lyric goes, music was my first love and it will be my last. Music of the future and music of the past. Yeah, music and humour, I think they're the things that have just kept me going.
And a real tonic for me, definitely, is laughing. I sometimes find I'm laughing so much I just can't stop. There's too many people in this world who bloody complain about stuff. They don't know how lucky they are. I went on holiday to Barbados and it was too hot.
Some people find it hard to talk. They find it hard to talk to doctors sometimes, they might be intimidated by them. But it's important to talk, Try and get it out. What's bugging you, get it out and talk about it. It might seem trivial to you, but it could be important for your treatment.
Be supportive, don't just ignore it or let them deal with it themselves, because I still believe friends and families play a big part. I know the doctors do their part, but the doctors are not going to be with them regularly.
For many years I beat myself up about being ill and having bipolar, but nobody has a right to make you feel guilty about anything, because it's just the way you are and you have to live with it. It's not a death sentence in any way. It doesn't prevent people from having children. It doesn't prevent people from having a career, a life, as much as anybody else. They have a right to have a life.
My journey's been a search for serenity, really, and peace of mind. That's all anybody wants, I think.
It has made me a stronger person, but it has taken a lot to get here. But I think obviously my message out there is a way out.
And also it's made me relook at my life. By having bipolar and by having to give up the teaching, I'm delving into places I never thought I'd go to. But you can't just take bipolar away from me, because it's in me. And most of the time I like me, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, I am in a good place. Yeah. I have to look after myself. I'm the only person who can do that.
Never give up. Just try to keep it going. Sometimes it's not easy. In fact, it's bloody hard. of all the things I ever did, with her I got it right. And so that's a joy for me. That's the most important thing in my life. I think it's my daughter and my relationship with her. And, you know, the rest is trying to live out the years I got left in some kind of peace and harmony with what I consider to be a crazy world, you know. But it's the world that I've got. It's the world that we have. And I ain't going to change it. But I can change one little piece of it. I can change the way I react to it and how I live in it and how I cope with my condition from now on. You know, it's been a long road to get here. I'm 61 years old, you know. I wish somebody had told me when I was 21. Could have saved me a lot of emotional pain and hundreds of thousands and thousands of pounds. But, you know, what was it one guy in America once said? Life's a bitch, then you die. But not just yet. Hopefully not just yet.
I'm alone. Oh, I'm somewhere in between the light of the day and the dark of the night. I'm alone. I've got company in my thoughts. The things that weigh me down are slowly drifting off. So come along, let me show